If you have any interest in angelic encounters, you won't want to miss this. Besides cross-referencing the information available in English, some of the material presented was directly translated from Portuguese in order to create the most accurate report about the Fatima incident. When direct translation has occurred, it will be stated. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, in April 1915, 8-year-old Lucia sang her rosary when she sees a human form appear as a translucent white cloud. This happens a second time, then a third time in October 1915. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, in 1916, Lucia's two cousins Francisco and Jacinta, who are brother and sister, saw a light in a cave, and a 14-year-old boy who presents himself as the Angel of Peace. That year, they see the Angel of Peace 2 more times. It should be mentioned that the 3 are the children of shepherds. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, Sunday, May 13, 1917 at 12 p.m., Lucia, now 10 years old, with her cousins Francisco, 9 years old, and Jacinta, 7 years old, are feeding a flock of sheep after attending Mass. They plan to build a wall around a bush when their attention is drawn to a luminous phenomenon, a shining globe in the sky that descends to their farm, and near a large grassy depression called the Cave of St. Irene, which is an ancient sacred place. They go to investigate, and a light embraces and almost blinds them, but allows them to see in its center, which contains a small woman in a white dress. It should be noted that this outer sphere could be interpreted as an angel known as the Ophanim, also described as a wheel within a wheel, or a sphere within a sphere, and its stated purpose is to transport heavenly beings. Continuing, the woman talks to them reassuringly and asks them to return every month in the same place at the same time for 6 months. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, on June 13, 1917 at 12 p.m., the 3 children arrive at the large grassy depression and are greeted by 50 townspeople that heard their story. The townspeople see the little shepherds kneel and suddenly become transfigured. The oldest child, Lucia, talks to an invisible entity, but the people can't hear the responses. One of the spectators claims to have heard a very low voice or the buzzing of a bee. At the end of this dialogue, all the witnesses heard an explosion and saw a small cloud that formed a pillar by a nearby tree. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, on July 13th at 12 noon, in front of a now 3,000 witnesses, the children were again on their knees. The sun decreased in its brightness according to witnesses, as did its heat. A small white cloud around the same nearby tree formed, and a powerful voice was heard. The children later reported this is where the Virgin Mary was located. The children were provided a vision that the war would end, but if the people did not cease offending God, a much worse war during the reign of Pope Pius XI would occur. As a side note, Pope Pius XI died the same year World War II started, in 1939. The Virgin Mary went on to say, "When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given to you by God, that He will punish the world for its crimes, and on October 13th there will be a miracle performed." Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, on August 13th at 12 noon, 18,000 people have gathered, but the children are not at the grassy depression. They were kidnapped and imprisoned by the administrator of the district, who decided to end the nonsense. In their absence, the people heard a clasp of thunder, followed by a bright flash. A white cloud formed a shaft in the sky, hovered for a few minutes, then rises and dissipates. The sky and the clouds become crimson red, pink, yellow, and blue. Witnesses speak of colored light, like a rainbow in the sky to the ground. Clouds around the sun reflected various colors on people. They all see flowers that fall from the sky. A man, Emmanuel Pedro Marto, declares under oath during an inquiry that follows, he saw a luminous globe turn in on itself in the clouds. Meanwhile, the administrator interrogates and threatens the children, but they hold fast, and on August 19th, after 6 days of being imprisoned, they are released. Prisoners held with them in the jail later testified that the children led them in praying the rosary. Translated from the Portuguese Historical Archives, on September 13th at 12 noon, a crowd of 30,000 people gathered, including 2 skeptical priests. The site of the apparitions is a vast amphitheater, with the famous tree towards its lower center, but the priest chose a location in a higher place, where they could see everything. The sun became less intense although there is no clouds in the sky. Thousands of people shout pointing. There it is, look! A globe of light slowly descends down the valley from the east to the west towards the children, and stops by the tree, causing the tree to illuminate. A white cloud forms, and bright white petals begin to fall from the empty sky. As thousands are fixated on this strange sight, they soon notice that, contrary to the laws of science, the petals start to glisten and turn into globules as they fall. They become smaller and smaller as the globules approach them. When the people extend their hands and hats to catch them, they realize that in one way or another they vanish. Again, the children see the Virgin Mary at the center of the sphere, and dialogue is entered into between the Virgin Mary and Lucia. The promise of a miracle on October 13th is renewed. Then the luminous sphere rises and disappears into the sun. When we asked one of the priests what the globe seemed to be, he responded very impressed and said, he could be a heavenly vehicle carrying the Mother of God from his throne to the desert here below. Translate from the Portuguese Historical Archives, October 13th at 12 noon, before a crowd of 70,000 people despite heavy rain, which included newspaper reporters and photographers, the children came into contact with the Virgin Mary. Witnesses observed the great changes occurring on the faces of the three children and transfigured vision. As promised, the miracle takes place from the Virgin Mary. The rain suddenly stopped falling on the crowd, and heavy clouds parted. The sun appeared as a shiny silver disc. It quickly rotated on its axis and launched beams of colored light in all directions. Red light rays streamed out from the edges of the sun, which reddened clouds, earth, trees, people, then violet, blue, yellow, and other colors. The colors were described by a scientist that was present as appearing as monochromatic areas circling constantly. A teacher and her students and other witnesses in the town reported that the solar phenomenon was visible up to 24 miles away. Later, this case would be known as the Miracle of the Sun. Columnist Avelino de Almeida of O Século, Portugal's most influential newspaper, which was pro-government in policy and avowed anti-religious, reported the following. Before the astonished eyes of the crowd, whose aspect was biblical as they stood bareheaded, eagerly searching the sky, the sun trembled, made sudden incredible movements outside of all cosmic laws. The sun danced according to the typical expression of the people. Eye specialist Dr. Domingos Pinto Holho, writing for the newspaper Odom, reported, the sun at one moment was surrounded by scarlet flame, at another rolled in yellow and deep purple. It seemed to be an exceedingly fast and whirling movement, at times appearing to be loosened from the sky and to be approaching the earth, strongly radiating heat. A special reporter for the October 17, 1917 edition of the Lisbon Daily, Odia, reported the following. The silver sun, enveloped in a purple gauzy light, was seen to whirl and twirl in a circle of broken clouds. The light turned a beautiful blue, as if it had come through the stained glass windows of a cathedral. It spread itself over the people who knelt with outstretched hands. People wept and prayed with uncovered heads, in the presence of a miracle they had witnessed. The seconds seemed like hours, so vivid were the colors. Many onlookers reported other phenomenon, including luminous mist of varying colors and flower petals that fell from the sky. Later, the three girls stated that they saw images of the Holy Family, which included Jesus Christ. Many testified under oath to what they had witnessed, and later Fatima was officially declared worthy of belief by the Catholic Church. The old adage, you can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time, applies to this case. To have 70,000 witnesses and no one providing evidence that it's a fraud can only mean one thing. This incident is real. And it only takes one case out of millions of cases to change everything. A quote by Sherlock Holmes fits this case well. When you eliminate the impossible, what remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Remember to subscribe to this channel for free, and tune in tomorrow for more daily strange news. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Take care, and God bless.